All right, I knew I better not be late or else I'd get my honor card taken. You all have your honor cards, right? Okay. And thanks out to Sister Mary Lisa for inviting me to share this time with you. You know, she's the one who influenced me all those years ago in government class to become civically engaged. And that was quite a gift. I think of Sister Mary Lisa every time I look at this little card. And you'll see a dome on there. It's not St. Peter's Basilica. It's not a holy card. It's the California State Capitol Dome. And I went to Sacramento my senior year in 1974 in a program to learn about state government. So thank you, Sister Mary Lisa, for that, for getting me involved in that program. It's a wonderful program, California Youth Legislative Program. I commend you young women on your participation in Student Council. Not only are you providing a service for your peers now, but you are honing your leadership skills for the future, a future where you can serve to bring God's goodness and justice to your circles of influence. I encourage you to continue on this path of elected service, as there is a great dearth of women leaders in our country today. The U.S. has the lowest percentage of women elected officials in all industrialized nations, just 17% in both the House and the Senate. Now, this may surprise you, since you hear all about high-profile individual women like Hillary Clinton and Nancy Pelosi and Sarah Palin and Condoleezza Rice and others in the news, but really substantial change in the way public policy is formed takes place only when women are represented equally at all levels of government and institutions. Jeannette Rankin, who is from Montana, was the first woman elected to Congress in 1917. And she said, and that was before women had the right to vote even, she said, we're half the people, we should be half the Congress. And I agree with her. The stats for business are even more discouraging, unfortunately. Despite being half the workforce, women are only 15% of corporate officers of the Fortune 500 are women. So I think the world needs women's leadership now more than ever, both in legislative halls as well as in the boardrooms. As Dr. Lucindy Cagnoro of the World YWCA Secretary, she's the World YWCA Secretary General, says, quote, "What women offer is essential. Domination as a leadership style is becoming less and less popular. There is a new growing appreciation of those traits that women use to keep families together and to organize volunteers to unite and to make change in the shared life of communities. These newly admired qualities of shared leadership, nurturance, and doing good for others are today not only sought after, but indeed needed to make a difference in the world. A feminine way of leading includes helping the world to understand and be principled about values that really matter," end quote. Or one could say where quality and the individual count, right? Or as newly elected Canadian Green Party Member of Parliament Elizabeth May says, we need hope over fear. We need compassion over competition. We need to work together. Now, one female leader I really admire is Nobel Peace Prize winner Wangari Maathai. She received a Catholic education here in the U.S. and then returned to Africa to found the Green Belt Movement, an environmental, non-governmental organization focused on the planting of trees, environmental conservation, and women's rights. In the early years, she was actually beaten and imprisoned for her work, but she persevered and went on to become a member of the Kenyan Parliament. If you're preparing your summer reading list, you might want to add her book to your list. She has several books. This one is called Unbowed. Now, when I ran for city council, I learned that what most voters want is to be heard, for someone to listen to them rather than have someone talk at them. We women excel at these communication skills of active listening and dialogue facilitation, and then take it to the next step to form creative solutions to the pressing problems of our day. Sometimes when I was campaigning, though, I was asked, well, why are you bothering to run? Well, I think our democracy should be a participatory one. When we women run, we lend a woman's voice to the public dialogue and eventually to public policy. When women run, it sets an example for other women to run. The more women run, the more women will win. I was gratified to learn that my city council run influenced a colleague of mine to subsequently run for assembly in her district. So we need to bring other women along with us. Also, I think because my campaign for city council was a credible campaign, it helped lead to my appointment on the Urban Forest Task Force. Then, when I ran for California State Assembly last year, I surprised myself even. There was a candidate formed in the Valley, and candidates for various offices were all convened to participate in a discussion. And there were 10 candidates, and only two of us were women of the 10 candidates. And the format was a rapid fire response type of format, and it was a little chaotic. And some of the male candidates were really monopolizing the microphone beyond their time limits, and I just, I couldn't sit for that. I became emboldened, and at times I actually grabbed the mic so I could get the words in about the issues I really cared about. And this is not the way I usually behave, but it shows the difference in the approaches. But sometimes we women have to step up to the plate and not just wash it. So, by the way, before I forget, I'm on Facebook if any of you want to friend me. Gotta get that plug in. So my own journey has been influenced a lot by the Catholic Church's teachings on social justice. In particular, the most recent addition to the list, which is entitled Care for God's Creation. I feel really passionate about the call to protect the environment and stand with the poor that environmental degradation most severely affects. In other words, to give a voice to the voiceless. We need to take care of each other and the planet, and in doing one, we will also be doing the other as well. We're all related, and all of creation is interconnected, as scientists continue to prove over and over again. Probably one of my most profound experiences of this has come in my work with the South Central Farmers. For 14 years, they had the largest urban farm in the U.S., located down in South Central LA, not far from here, in the poorest, most polluted part of the city. They were poor people growing food to feed themselves, creating an urban oasis, a haven, and a model for localized food production. Then sometime in 2004, I visited the farm, and as many did, felt the power of their community, and I was caught. In 2006, unfortunately, though, they endured a very cruel and heart-wrenching eviction and destruction of the farm that they had worked so many years on. And I'll never forget that hot summer day when I stood with Don Neno and cried as we watched the crops that were about to be harvested bulldozed under and the fruit trees uprooted and knocked over. I felt so powerless, as all I could do was stand there in solidarity with him and the other farmers and the supporters as we witnessed the callous disregard of their identity as urban farmers. Every time the bulldozer lunged forward, it just felt like another knife in the heart. But because of the strong community that the South Central Farmers had become, they persevered in their mission to bring organic produce to low-income areas of the city, which they continue to do to this day, from their present farm up in Bakersfield. Now, I too persevered in my support for their efforts, and I can proudly say that I am part of the South Central Farmers' very diverse and very eclectic community, and now serve on their board. And we continue to work to reestablish the farm at its original site down in South Central. And this is meaningful to me because I see that their cause synergizes so many issues I care about. Urban, green, open space to clean and cool the air in an area that lacks clean, cool air. Localized organic food security in a food desert. Support for the marginalized in our society. The power of community building with women in pivotal roles. And seeing how nature can provide a safe haven for at-risk youth as well as seniors. You get Netflix, there's a DVD about the garden, about the South Central Farmers called The Garden. So you might want to check that out on Netflix. One of the influential people who supported the farmers in the days preceding the eviction was Julie Butterfly Hill. She and others sat in walnut trees at the farm to garner attention for the cause of saving the farm. I had first met Julie years prior while lobbying and working on the campaign for old growth, the campaign to save ancient redwoods here in California. You may have heard of Julia's story of how she sat in an ancient redwood called Luna for 2 years to prevent it from being felled. And here's her book called Legacy of Luna. That was the name of the redwood tree. And this is an incredible story, and I do recommend this for your summer reading list. It's a real page turner. So Julia's an amazing woman leader, and I'd just like to share a few things that I've learned from her with you as you move ahead as leaders. Julia taught me, Julia encourages people to say what they are for instead of what they are against. people are more receptive to dialoguing about an issue if the framework is positive. Okay? And then also, Julie taught me that time is a sacred resource. Whatever we spend our time doing, we are making a stand for that. So be clear about how you spend your time and have a sense of integrity with what you profess you stand for and what you actually spend your time doing. So for me, I have found that leadership starts with listening, both to your inner wisdom and to others, and then it progresses to service and example, which can require quite a bit of patience and perseverance, and then finally to recognition. A need that speaks to your heart comes along, and you respond to fill that need, and then people in turn respond to you. There's no exact formula, and diversity of expression of leadership can bring great surprises, whether it be in the political realm, in your workplace, in your own neighborhood, with an issues-based organization, serving as a catalyst to connect dynamic individuals, or even getting arrested for a cause you believe in. And I certainly have done many of these. So the key is to take that leap, put yourself out there as one who stands for something. As Helen Keller said, life is a daring adventure or it is nothing. And the needs are so great in this time we are living in. For example, one of the issues I discussed when I ran for California State Assembly, and one that I know is important for the Sisters of Notre Dame, is human trafficking. There are more slaves alive today than at any other time in human history. And Southern California is a major hub for traffickers. Then environmental issues are also, as you can tell, critically important to me, like curbing global warming and transitioning to renewable and sustainable energy sources. Finding ways to ensure that everyone has access to healthy food, clean water, safe shelter, quality education, and medical care is imperative. And reprioritizing our tax dollars to reflect our human values and not those of big and personal corporations, I think is really urgent too. Women's leadership can address these and other needs in cooperative, creative, powerful, and joyful ways. So what are the remedies then, and I feel they are interrelated, that women's leadership skills can bring to the table? Well, as the prayer mentioned, compassion, empathy, caring and sharing. These would counter greed and corruption, the power of community building, grassroots democracy, and meaningful communication would replace isolation and alienation with trusting relationships, celebrating diversity, and promoting mutual understanding and peace. Resilience and the ability to adapt to the demands of a changing world would help all survive and even thrive if we but focus on the effects our actions will have on the seventh generation yet to come. So in closing, I urge you to listen to your hearts and live your truths. Live as if the future matters. Lead as if the future matters, because it does. Thank you.